Welcome to Write Books That Sell Now, the podcast helping you write, publish, and market your book faster, better, and smarter. Here are your hosts, working hard and having fun doing it, Candace L. Davis, Anita Henderson, and Carol Dunlop.
Welcome to Write Books That Sell Now, the podcast that gives you real insight into the real world of becoming a successful self-published author. I'm Candace L. Davis, here with my comadres of Write Books That Sell Now.
Anita Henderson, hello.
Carol Dunlop, what's up?
And we are so glad you joined us today. We're going to discuss on this episode how you as an author can use publicity and public relations to get visibility for your book. PR is one of those mysteries that many authors have yet to figure out, but our guest, Corinne Moulder, will open your eyes to how to do it right and how to get results. But before we get to that, Carol, what's on your mind?
Well, thank you very much, Candace. What's on my mind is that we are better together.
Yay.
So as you can see, this is, if you've watched any of our initial podcasts, video podcasts, we were all in the little box down there, right? And then we would bring our beautiful faces up and go down and stuff. But something magical happened when we actually did the summit that we just came off, the mega summit, book marketing mega summit. We actually had to come together in one spot to actually do the videotaping. And we had a small audience of our wonderful, awesome husbands that were, they're not here today, but they were there in the background. And they each came up to us individually afterwards and they said, you know, y'all have such a chemistry together. Y'all are awesome. Y'all should do this together. And
we knew that already,
yeah,
but you know.
One side of our brain was like, hallelujah, that's so awesome. The other side of our brain was like, oh my God, now we gotta, not that we are.
We don't live close together.
Yeah, yes, there you go. So we gotta drive to get to the place.
Let's just say it took me an hour and a half to get here.
Yeah, mine was about 45 minutes.
It's my house, though.
It's like I walked 3 steps.
I know, she just came in here. But the thing is that our chemistry is undeniable. It's just like I felt with my husband when I married him. You know, I couldn't let him go.
But it's not quite that kind of chemistry.
Yeah, not that quite. But it's the good
We like each other.
We do.
And we work well in person.
We get along. We bounce off each other, bounce ideas off. We tell each other when we're wrong, and then we still talk to each other afterwards. So it all kind of works out really good, right?
It does.
And as entrepreneurs who work from home, a lot of times you can become very isolated.
Mm-hmm.
You work in your little silo. I love it. Maybe I get dressed. Maybe I don't. But I'm working from home, right? And you
maybe I brush my teeth. Maybe I don't.
You can talk to your clients by phone or by Skype. You just put on a shirt. You're fine. And you kind of can get in a little silo.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the bottom half here.
Right.
I didn't worry about it.
So it's nice to have this opportunity, and we talk to each other all the time, but it's nice to have the opportunity where you actually get to meet in person and connect with people.
Yeah, love it. You guys are awesome.
Yes.
We are better together.
We are.
Kumbaya.
Kumbaya. But anyway, today we're going to talk about how you can get better together with your publicity and your book and bring them together for an awesome, awesome thing that you've been working on this thing forever. So you need to put it out there. And our guest is going to tell us how we're going to do that, right?
She absolutely is. Our guest is Corinne Moulder. She is Director of Business Development with Smith Publicity. She's been there since 2007. She develops aggressive, out-of-the-box, creative, and successful media outreach plans. Corinne earned a degree in English with minors in communications and creative writing, and we are very happy to have her on the Write Books That Sell Now podcast. Welcome, Corinne.
Hello, how are you, ladies?
We are fantastic. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. It's so nice to join you today. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking some time. You know, publicity is a mystery for a lot of people. They don't get it. They don't know what it is. And they don't know the difference between publicity and public relations, or if there even is a difference. So why don't you give us, let's start from there. What's publicity? What's public relations? Where's all this stuff come from?
Anita, that's a great place to start. And you're so right about it being this kind of unknown world. You have marketing, you have advertising, you have publicity. And I believe every publicist has their own niche, which they should, but that's one of the most important things to find out when you are looking into any sort of publicity or marketing service. So we find with advertising, there's control. You're paying for the placement. You're guaranteed that spot. You get to pick the size of the ad. You know when it's going to run. When it comes to publicity and marketing, that's a bit more unknown. And where we find the benefit is in the credibility. You're actually chosen to be covered. Your book is being picked up because an editor or a journalist finds that there is mass appeal to share with their audience. So it is definitely the credibility versus the control. With publicity, there's no guarantee, which is a tough thing to really comprehend on an author's side, especially when you have, like you said, poured so much time and energy into preparing your book. You want it to be a fit for your target audience. So going into any sort of publicity relationship, what I find is one of the most important questions to ask right up front for anyone you're considering hiring is exactly what is your niche, what is your strength in promoting books, and what don't you do? Because there's a lot to be said in what the specific publicist focus is. And at Smith Publicity, for instance, we've really built our campaigns with a core focus around traditional media outreach, blogger, and reviewer outreach. So
what's the traditional media part? Explain that.
Yeah, the traditional media, I know a lot of things have certainly transitioned to online outlets, but newspapers are still put out daily.
What? Newspaper? What's that?
There are real things still. So it would be the print media, newspapers and magazines, also broadcast radio and television. And we do incorporate online news outlets like a Huffington Post or the online version to a print publication. Now we have Huffington Post Live. There are so many podcasts, as you're well aware of, that are becoming a major trend also for authors, and really focusing in, most importantly, on the specific target market for your book and for your message will allow you and your publicist to focus in on the proper publications.
Now, you said a lot, Corinne, but I want to go back to something you mentioned a few seconds ago, and that is the no guarantee policy when it comes to publicity and PR. Explain why there's no guarantee as opposed to with advertising.
Sure. There's no guarantee because your book and your message, they're being selected to be a part of a feature. So within publicity, it may be a Q&A with an author that runs in print or perhaps an interview. It could be an excerpt from the book that's chosen to be printed up within a Sunday paper or a local paper. With no guarantee, that's a hard thing. I'm a director of business development. I work with authors all the time, and to explain the cost of service and to remind them that there's no guarantee, that's a hard sell to make, of course. And I think with anyone who is considering services, knowing that there's no guarantee, you can be mindful of anyone who is making a guarantee. What type of publication or producer is then taking the project on? Is it the right fit for your book and for your market? The guarantee word it's a bit controversial in our line of work.
I think part of it kind of speaks to with advertising, you're actually paying for it. And your ad better run because you're paying for that space or that time, as opposed to publicity it's what we have called earned media, right? You earn it because you've attracted the attention of a reporter or a producer, and they find some value in it for their particular audience. So it's earned, but not guaranteed, because if something else comes up or something else that fits their fancy, they may put that in place of yours. And so that really speaks to having something juicy to offer rather than just blasting out, I just wrote a book, right?
Sure. And I think it also speaks to having to have a very close connection with your publicist. Because what I can guarantee for anyone that we work with is that there's constant communication, that there's going to be detailed reports of all of the initiatives that are carried out. We're looking for our authors to give us suggestions and tell us about the articles that they've read that might be a fit for bouncing a pitch off of the book then. Having that collaborative relationship with your publicist is going to help the campaign go smoother. You're always looking for the tie-ins that are already being discussed within the news. For instance, the Olympics. There are businessmen and women that are tying into the Olympics and about the determination of the Olympians. There are the health and wellness advocates that are jumping on the Olympics. You have to find those tie-ins to make your book even more newsworthy than it already is. And then fiction is quite a different breed, I would say. There's a lot more emphasis for fiction with online media, bloggers, reviewers, and that's where actual lead times become very important.
So Corinne, for an author who has never worked with a publicist before, what should she or he have in place before they come to you and say, hey, I would really like to work with you?
It's a great question. So there are several things that we recommend having in place, or at least starting to be developed. First and foremost, it's up to the author to have a very specific idea of who their target audience is. We as publicists, we can't tell you who you wrote the book for. And if we find that there's a mismatch of expectations in terms of who you believe the book is a fit for and who we see being an appropriate fit for from the media side of things, then that's a reason not to work together. So having a very clear idea of your target audience is just one thing that I highly recommend going into it. Another is having the credentials and support for your background within the content that you've written about. And that's even with a work of fiction. You can still join a local writers group that you can tout about. You can really go through the edits with different reading groups. There are ways that you can build a platform or at least start to get things in place before you start working with a publicist, because the more leverage that your publicist has to position you as a new author, the farther you will go. Definitely having a website in place is important. Think of that as your virtual business card, more information about you, your book, any upcoming events that you have, a place to connect as well, contact information, also your social media links. And social media is another thing that you should at least start to have in the works before hiring a publicist. You may need some training, you may need some advice on that. I don't recommend going after every single social media platform that there is, even if you just pick one and solidify your presence there and start to grow your network. That's enough. But you're actually giving people a reason to continue to come visit you after they've read your book and maybe before your next book is available.
I love those points. I wanted to ask you this, and I just thought of it. So, and I know it's not going to knock you off your game, so I feel comfortable asking you. I wanted to know, when you hear publicist, you think of movie stars and big name figures, like President Obama or Hillary Clinton or something like that. How does that, how do you not be intimidating to like a small author who doesn't really have a whole lot? They may have the Facebook page and the platform going, but then you say you need to hire a publicist and they're looking at you like side eye. What are you talking about? I don't need a publicist. What would you say to them?
Well, I that's such a good question, Carol. I think it's definitely looking to identify, again, that trust with your publicist, and that is bringing forth your expectations. That's a question that I ask authors for any initial call, and some people are scared away by the thought of a publicist. They want to do it on their own, and I commend people who do. Self-promotion can work. It takes a lot of work, but it can work. Mm-hmm. But if you're really thinking about hiring a publicist, you need to lay out your expectations. You need to, another thing you should have in mind before hiring a publicist, you need to know your budget before you even start shopping around, because things will be attractive to you. And you might want to stretch your budget, but is that really the right fit? Is that what's going to really work for you after the campaign is wrapped up? So I think going into any conversation with a publicist, especially as a brand new author, laying out what your expectations are and what you hope to accomplish with a publicity campaign will allow a trustworthy publicist to tell you whether or not they can help you. And what I would recommend, and we offer such a range of services because there's no one fit for every author.
Right.
Love to start with something small and dip your toes in, get your feet wet, really feel it out and start to see, okay, when I get reviews, what can I do with them? How can I leverage them? There are blog tours that you can sign up for I believe as low as $99 sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
There are services available to most authors who are looking to invest any sort of money, and you just have to ask the right question and really trust your gut, and make sure you are feeling connected to the firm or the publicist you're hiring.
Well, that's good. I think the connection is really good. Corinne, you mentioned that Smith Publicity offers a variety of publicity services. Mention a few of them and then pick one and sort of walk us through the process. What does that look like? So you mentioned, online blogger tours or awards programs, or even maybe media publicity. Tell us what you offer and then pick one and walk us through.
Sure. Well, from our lower cost services, we just offer NetGalley as a reseller service. NetGalley is an online book review community where we can actually post a book. We can position the book with content and make it accessible to reviewers, bloggers, and librarians who are interested in a specific genre. That would be something that I would recommend for someone who's looking to kind of dip their toes in. And that's a service that it's not as big of a commitment on the author's end. And again, they can start to gauge some feedback. When we begin to explore our media outreach services, of course, that's where a publicist is going to be involved, and not surprisingly, the cost is going to get a little bit more. Typically starting around a $2,000 price point for us is when we would actually have a campaign where we're shaping content, we're pitching to our media contacts, we're looking to open doors and create opportunities within the media world and with bloggers and reviewers. We do offer the bells and whistles, of course, and that's, again, it's being selective with the projects we take on for it, because we know there are no guarantees and our authors know there are no guarantees. We want to make sure it's the right fit for us as well. But we could explore something as long as a 6-month contract where we're actually distributing advance review copies 4 months prior to the publication date. We are working to bring in opportunity to really place our authors in front of the camera and on radio programs right around the publication date, and then really working right through that release date to push for reviews and notoriety for the book, sometimes using the book as a business card. So that's kind of the bigger bells and whistles, of course. I think you'll find in researching publicity prices that publicists typically would range between $3,200 to $3,600 per month for a very full service, hands-on execution by your publicist. But I did again mention that there are some companies who do a blog tour for $99, and that may be a place to start as well. When we are working with an author for media outreach, because I mentioned that's the core of our focus, we would typically start with a very introductory call, just to review the questionnaire that we have our authors fill out, kind of their homework, if you will. We review the book, and then we're drafting the press materials within the very first week of the campaign. And depending on the length of the campaign and the author's focus, we're developing a book release, which is more than just the synopsis of the book. It almost is written to be a news article, because we're pitching to media, and they can extract the information from there and use it as they wish. We also would create an interview release, and that's all about our author and what they can discuss in an interview and the topics that they're comfortable addressing within an interview, be it TV, radio, or even print. We do also have our authors approve those press materials because they're the experts on their book. So we want their input. We want to really gauge what their feedback is. We have very thick skin as publicists. We want the feedback because we're essentially becoming a voice for the author. So having their input on those releases and the final approval is very important. Beyond the approval for the release, that's where the fun really starts to happen. For us, pitching is different every single week. We are not just taking one message and delivering it out to all of the potential audiences. If we look at a book, a parenting book, for instance, that could be applicable to the parenting and family genre, men's interest, child development, women's interest, and domestic lifestyle. And for all of the markets that the book applies to, that the author has a unique message for, we would accordingly pitch a very introductory pitch that explains exactly why it's a fit for that particular market. And that's really how we start to develop the relationships and help our authors really take their book to as wide of an audience as possible within a short period of time. Our campaigns range from 3 weeks to, like I said, 6 months and beyond. We also would have a weekly meeting with our author to walk through exactly what initiatives are being handled, who's responding. We do provide a weekly written report. There's no smoke and mirrors. It's very transparent what we're doing, and that's, again, all going back to the reason of offering no guarantee. We can guarantee that you'll know exactly what's happening with your campaign at all times.
That's excellent. So in the case of media relations and PR pitching in particular, it totally makes sense to use a publicist because you guys already have the groundwork laid. You know who reports are, you know which specialties, you can recommend to authors to pitch to, that you will pitch to. You know the editorial calendars, you've got the media list contacts that are updated. So it saves authors the effort and the time of trying to find the right publication, the right reporter, the right producer, of a TV show or a radio show. That's a lot of time and a lot of work. And especially right after, as you're in the midst of writing the book probably, or even afterwards, that's more time than you really feel like investing in that. So it makes sense to use a publicist.
Yes, I think so.
Well, I'm saying all that stuff that you were saying, it just made me tired just listening to it. I mean, I know that you are the expert in that. I'm the expert in what I do. That's why I wrote the book about it. But I'm not the expert in all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. So you just opened my eyes. I know these ladies, they've been around books forever. But I'm a newbie to the authordom and entrepreneur and all that stuff. So I'm like, oh my God, Corinne, I need your phone number right now. So thanks.
You know what, Carol, you're right about that. And that's what we say all the time. We aren't the experts on the content of the book or the author's background. That's why the collaborative nature of a publicity relationship is so very important. There have been clients that kind of go quiet once the interest starts to come through. And we certainly understand there are full-time jobs and families that are in need of your time as well. And we're not asking our authors to drop everything to devote to the campaign. But that collaborative relationship is so important. And I will tell you, just helps to make a campaign so much smoother. You're the expert with the message. We are the expert in helping to deliver that message to a wider audience.
Corinne, I want to talk to you about how an individual author, once they decide that they know they need to work with a publicist, how they choose the right publicist to work with. But first, I want to pause for a quick break from our sponsor.
This episode is sponsored by Write Your Life, helping professionals and entrepreneurs be an author, be an expert, be amazing. Write Your Life offers expert author coaching and book production services to help you produce a phenomenal self-published book you can use to leverage your business and your brand. Visit them at www.writeyourlife.net.
The Write Books That Sell Now free video training series. It's absolutely free, and you will learn a bunch of tips, tricks, and hacks from each of us to help you finally get your book done. In these free videos, we open the door to give you a taste of what you'll find in our high-value, information-packed online course. You'll get information on writing, publishing, and marketing your book, and it's all for free. To access the free video training series, just visit us at www.writebooksthatsellnow.com.
Welcome back. We're talking to Corinne Moulder of Smith Publicity. And Corinne, I was asking you before the break, how do you choose the right publicist? What kind of questions should you ask? Where should you even begin to find your options for a publicist to work with?
Candace, that's a really, really great question. You ladies are full of them. That goes back to what I had mentioned earlier about you having an idea of your expectations going into the research for a publicist. We talked about earlier how publicity can mean so many different things. And again, for our company, for Smith Publicity, the core of our focus is media outreach. Well, that's not what every publicist does. So identifying what your goals are and what you hope to achieve in hiring a publicist before you actually get on the phone with people and start vetting potential candidates to hire for support for your book is just extremely important. It's one of the very first questions that I look to have answered on my end because I want to make sure we're making the most of our time together. Additionally, it's having your budget in mind and really being firm about that. Again, things will start to sound very attractive when you hear what the bells and whistles will be, and stretching your budget is not a smart thing to do. It's not going to allow you to have the fun that publicity really should be. Publicity is a slow process. There are opportunities to start small and build, and that's what I would highly recommend doing for any new author. In terms of what to look for, I recommend a very important question to ask anyone you're considering hiring is, tell me about other books you've promoted within this genre. Let me talk to other authors who you've worked with who have also written about education or parenting. So you actually get a better sense of how the campaign unfolded for them and an idea of what the contacts are within that genre. That's very important. There are certain individuals, a lot of freelance publicists who can be fantastic to work with, and they may have built their niche within young adult or thriller or political books. When you're working with a firm such as Smith Publicity, to be very honest, we have such a vast array of publicists that the assignment process is quite different. So I think it's very important to ask exactly who's going to be executing the campaign, what qualifications and experience do they have within that particular genre, because I might be the first person that you talk to, but you wouldn't want me handling your campaign. I haven't done it for years. Who I work with our team managers to assign is a very important part of that process.
Corinne, help us understand, for those authors who are viewing and listening, when should they begin this whole process of PR and publicity? At what point in the book production process?
That's a great question. I don't think it's ever too early to get started. For some authors who have a very clear marketing plan, we could start working almost 6 months, about a year beforehand, really starting to lay out a plan. I actually love working with authors well in advance of them taking their book to the printer because it allows us to build that relationship. It allows me to meet other people who may be supporting the author, whether it's a book publishing consultant, a social media expert, and really start pulling together a team, especially for a self-published author. With the lure of advanced review copies, I think there's so much information out there now. Most authors know that to really give yourself a chance for any magazine reviews or trade publications, you do have to submit the advanced review copy. And that's typically about 4 months prior to the launch of the book, the release date. But to be very honest, I don't recommend it for every author. If you are new to the scene, you're looking to establish a platform, that's expensive to actually have your advanced review copies printed and distributed. And that's aside from someone who may be working with a traditional publisher or a small press who may be doing some of those initiatives for them. But self-publishing is a different ballgame. So depending on what the goals are and expectations and what placements our authors are hoping to see, getting started with Smith could be anywhere from 6 months prior to the publication date, and that's where we would be running the advanced review distribution, really pitching to long lead publications, trade publications, glossy magazines, and journals, and then kind of scaling back. We don't really want anything coming out too far in advance of the book being available for real-time purchase. But most authors who are new to the scene, again, they're self-published, it may be a first experience, I recommend getting started anywhere from 1 to 2 months prior. One thing you do want to be sure of is that you do have advanced review or advanced purchase for your book, just in case things do start to come out. And I know with Amazon, you can have the Kindle version available for at least 3 months prior. And I believe they're working on an option for the print book to be available for pre-order purchase as well.
Oh, that's good to know.
Good. Anything else?
My brain is on fire, Corinne. You've just been awesome. I can't think of one. I think you answered all my questions. Of course, Anita can. You know,
I was just like deferring to you.
Yeah, she's just trying to be nice to me. But
so, Corinne, what are some big mistakes you've seen authors make aside from starting too late or whatever? What are some huge mistakes you've seen authors make when it comes to publicity?
Well, I kind of touched on this already, but it's definitely one big mistake is not being present for the opportunities that are coming through.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, and it could be for a variety of reasons, but if you're communicating with your publicist the days that you won't be available, if there's an emergency, we would put the campaign on hold. We don't want to spend our author's investment if they're not available for what we're bringing in. That's also a quick way to upset our media contacts and reviewers as well. So definitely being present for the campaign. There's a big trend of byline articles and opinion pieces where a lot of media will request authors actually submit content that they will run. So what I like to do for a busy author is let's start working ahead of the campaign. Even before the start date, let's get some pieces together so your publicist has them and you're not under a crunch for it. So really making sure, I think, that your time is well laid out and that you're communicating availability to your publicist. I have seen campaigns go a bit awry when an author is not available. Another thing I think is extremely important, I said this before, we have thick skin. If an author's unhappy during their campaign, tell us. You should be able to tell your publicist when you're dissatisfied, when you feel that there's not enough effort being spent on going after a particular market, or you have a question about, where an opportunity lies. Ask your questions in the moment. Waiting until the end of the campaign, your book is farther out from the publication date. Your publicist is already feeling they've wrapped up their work. There's not that much, as much that they can do in the moment if you're not communicating your dissatisfaction.
Good deal. Good point. Well, any more questions, Candace?
I could keep Corinne here all day.
I could too.
Really. Just listen.
Excellent information, Corinne. We really appreciate it. Again, everybody, that was Corinne Moulder. She is with Smith Publicity. Corinne, let us know how our viewers can reach you.
You can reach us through our website at smithpublicity.com. You can email us at info@smithpublicity.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn as well.
Fantastic. Excellent, excellent publicity and PR insights. We really appreciate it. We encourage all of our authors who are watching and listening to look into Smith Publicity and really give publicity some serious consideration as part of your overall marketing strategy. So thanks again, Corinne. We appreciate you being a guest on the Write Books That Sell Now podcast.
Ladies, thank you.
You are welcome. And we're going to hand it off to Carol because I know she has an awesome shout out to an author.
I definitely do. First of all, I want to preface this by saying, I love free stuff. I've said that before. And Candace knows I'm talking. Look at her face over there. She knows I'm talking about this. But I just hate when you say something is really, really free. And I get to the page and you say, yes, it's free, but you have to pay the shipping and handling. That's just me personally. I know why you're doing it.
I don't mind.
I know it's a marketing thing, but I hate that.
I'm neutral. I understand both sides.
I just feel like if you're going to have me pay the shipping and handling, say it up first. Say it up front. That's all I want. But anyway, this wonderful...
She had to get that off of her.
I did. I really did. It was bothering me. But this wonderful author who I've known about for a little while, but just kind of delved into his information and have not even gotten the book yet. And yes, he did say you could get my book for free, but you have to pay the shipping and handling. So I liked him. And when I went there to the page, I did. And this is Ryan Levesque. Is that we think that's the way you say it. It's Levesque, Ryan Levesque. And he is the author of The Ask Method. And his thing is, why just sit around wondering if your content is resonating with people or why they don't buy or why they don't download or why they don't do whatever they don't do? Ask them about it in a survey format. And one thing he did say that I totally love about it is he said that people hate to take surveys, but they love quizzes. So he puts it in kind of a quiz format. So you really don't know that you're taking a survey, but you're actually helping the marketing effort of the person who's asking you the question. I am so in love with him, and he's really cute too. So I just want to let you know that.
She's married. It's okay.
Yes. My husband knows. I like cute people too. He does too. So Ryan Levesque, The Ask Method, totally awesome. I haven't even read the book. When I do read the book, I'm going to come back and do another shout out to him because that's how much I like him. Wow. So I'm going to be telling him on his Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and all that stuff that I can find him on because he is just phenomenal. Just want to let you know.
Wow.
That's a shout out.
That's a serious shout out. Thank you, Carol. And thank you everyone for joining us for the Write Books That Sell Now podcast. Whether you're listening or watching the video, we don't take you for granted. We're so glad that you showed up to join us, and we hope you'll join us again. You can jump over to writebooksthatsellnow.com and hear previous episodes if this is your first time meeting us, and we've got all the old episodes archived there. But if you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher, we would love it if you would jump onto your app and leave us a positive review and let us know what it is that you're enjoying about the show, and you can tell us what else you might like to see in the future as well. Thanks, everyone, and keep writing.
Bye. See you, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Find out more about becoming an author and making the most of your book at writebooksthatsellnow.com.